profile. She looked up at him, a little smile breaking the nervousness on her face. "Like someone else I know." He chuckled gently. "I guess it runs in the blood." They spent the night in a cheap roadside motel. The room was small and smelled of old cigarettes, but it had a bed and a door that locked, more than they could ask for right now. The next morning, Elijah called his cousin. It took a while for the number to go through, but finally, a familiar voice answered. "Elijah," the man said. "Where the hell have you been?" "Long story," Elijah replied. "But I'm in the city. I need a place to stay. Just for a while." His cousin didn't hesitate. "Come over." That was how they found themselves in a modest apartment on the edge of town. It wasn't flashy, but it was warm, welcoming, and above all, safe. The days passed quickly. Amora found a small job cleaning at a nearby bakery. Elijah, under a different name, started helping at a car repair garage. He was a fast learner, even though the tools were foreign to him. He worked with his hands like he was trying to prove something. But as the days turned into weeks, something else began to change. People in the neighborhood noticed Elijah. Not because of how he dressed or acted, but because of how he carried himself. There was a quiet confidence in his posture. A politeness that was rare. A sadness in his eyes that made people wonder. And then there was his face. One afternoon, the bakery owner said to Amora, "That boy of yours, he looks like someone I saw in the papers once. A politician's son or something?" Amora just smiled, nervously. "No, he's just Elijah. A mechanic now." But she noticed it too. The way people looked at him. Whispered. Wondered. She started to worry. "What happens when they find out who you really are?" she asked him one night. "I'm not that person anymore," he said, brushing her hair from her face. "I left him behind." "But the world doesn't forget so easily," she whispered. He pulled her close. "Then we'll build a new one. Together." They found an abandoned rooftop space above the bakery. That became their hideout. A little piece of heaven carved out from the noise of the city. There, they laughed like kids, shared stolen kisses, told stories of the future. Amora dreamed of opening a small cafe. Somewhere quiet. Where no one shouts or throws dishes. Elijah smiled. "I'll be your first customer. Every morning." She giggled. "Only if you don't complain about my cooking. I'll eat burnt toast every day if it means I get to wake up next to you." But the city had its own plans. One afternoon, as Elijah walked to the garage, two men in suits stood across the street. Watching. Their eyes lingered a moment too long before one whispered something into a phone. Elijah didn't notice. But someone was watching. Someone had recognized the billionaire's lost son. That evening, Amora came home late. She looked worried. "My madam," she whispered. "She's in the city." Elijah froze. "What?" "She's visiting her sister. She saw me from a distance, I think. I ran." "Do you think she followed you?" "I don't know, but I can't go back to the bakery. Not for now." He held her hands, squeezing gently. "We'll figure something out. I'll talk to my cousin. Maybe he can help us relocate again. Somewhere quieter." She nodded, though fear lingered in her eyes. "What if the city becomes as cruel as the village?" she asked softly. Elijah looked at her for a long moment. "Then we keep moving. Until we find a place that isn't." Later that night, she fell asleep in his arms, her head on his chest, breathing soft and steady. Elijah lay awake. He could feel the past creeping up behind him, threatening to unravel everything. The heartbreak. The robbery. The escape. The love. All of it. He had promised to protect Amora. But how could he if the world kept trying to drag him back to a life he no longer wanted? Still, in the soft light of their hideaway, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever it took, he would never leave her behind. The morning sun streamed through the cracked window of their tiny room. The air was heavy, not with heat, but with fear. Ever since Amora saw her madam in the city, tension had lingered like smoke around them. Elijah paced the floor, his mind a battlefield. He was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of living like a shadow in a world he once ruled. He paused by the mirror, staring at the reflection. The rough clothes, the dust on his face, the calloused hands from weeks of labor. But beneath it all, he was still Elijah Donovan, the son of one of the most powerful men in the country. A son of a lion doesn't run like a coward, he whispered to himself. That morning, he left Amora asleep and met with his cousin in a quiet cafe on the edge of town. I want to go back, Elijah said calmly. His cousin blinked. Back? To your father's mansion? Elijah nodded. Yes. But not as his son. The cousin frowned. Then how? As a houseboy. I'll stay in the boys' quarters. You'll pass the message to my father, tell him everything, but tell him to play along. I need to stay hidden, at least until I know who Amora really loves. Me, or the name behind me. There was silence. Then his cousin leaned back, a slow smile curling on his lips. You always were dramatic. Elijah smirked. I learned from the best. When he got home that night, Amora was curled up in bed, a soft crease on her forehead. Hey, he said gently, sitting beside her. She sat up immediately. Where did you go? He took her hand. I found someone, an old boss. I used to work for him before I came to the village. Her brows rose. You worked before? Yeah, he nodded. Odd jobs. Housework. Errands. He's strict but fair. Said we could come back. He'll give us a room and food. We'll just have to help around the house. Amora looked at him quietly, then slowly nodded. If it means we're safe again, I'll go anywhere with you. He kissed her forehead, heart tightening. The lies stung his tongue, but he needed to know. He needed to be sure. The Donovan estate stood like a silent empire. When the gates opened for the black car that brought them in, Amora's eyes widened. This is where your boss lives. Elijah swallowed. Yeah. Big, right? She chuckled nervously. More like a palace. The staff lined up as they entered the courtyard, but none acknowledged Elijah's true identity. His cousin had done well. They were escorted to the boys' quarters, a tidy little building behind the mansion, separate from the family's main residence. There, Elijah and Amora were given a modest room and a small storage closet for their things. The house manager, a stern man named Samuel, handed them uniforms. You'll both help in the kitchen and with errands. No loitering. No distractions. And no getting too comfortable. Elijah nodded humbly. Yes, sir. Samuel narrowed his eyes. You look familiar. Elijah smiled faintly. I get that a lot. Days passed. Elijah swept the floors he once walked on in polished shoes. He served tea in a house where he'd once hosted foreign dignitaries. He washed dishes in the kitchen his father once ordered gourmet meals from. And beside him, Amora worked hard, never once complaining. She cooked, cleaned, smiled through the exhaustion. And in the quiet corners, away from the busy eyes of the estate, they still found moments to be just them. Under the mango tree behind the staff quarters, they would share stolen breakfasts, whisper dreams, and laugh like the world hadn't been cruel to them. But something about this place, about seeing Elijah so hidden, made Amora look at him differently. One evening, she leaned on his shoulder, both of them watching the sun fade behind the mansion's towers. Sometimes, she whispered, I feel like you're more than what you say you are. He stiffened. Why would you say that? I don't know, she smiled softly. The way you speak, the way you carry yourself. It's not like the others. He paused, then looked into her eyes. I told you before, he said quietly, I left my past behind to find something real. She reached up and gently touched his cheek. I don't care where you came from. I care about who you are when you look at me like that. That night, he held her tighter than ever before. Their love grew stronger with every shared smile, every chore done side by side. But in the shadows of the estate, eyes were watching. The other housemaids whispered. Some mocked Amora's closeness to the new boy. Some grew jealous, especially one of the younger kitchen maids who had been trying to catch Elijah's attention for weeks. But Elijah saw no one else. Amora had his heart. They were inseparable. Until one afternoon, when Elijah was called into the main house. Standing there, behind the grand mahogany desk, was his father. For a split second, Elijah almost slipped, almost called him Dad. But the older man remained stern, distant. "You're the new boy," he said. "What's your name?" "Elijah, sir." The older